I just got fired from my job as a taxi driver. Turns out people don't like it when you go the extra mile for them. Okay, this morning we are going to be replacing the power steering pump right down there. I've got to remove the belt off the pulley. There are 3 fasteners that hold the power steering pump into place, and I have to remove a clamp to get this return line undone, and there's a hard line with a nut right down in there, so I got to get that out too. So let's go wrenching. I'm going to remove this snorkel because it's just in my way. You can see how much this thing was puking power steering fluid. Everything around in here has got power steering fluid on it. Pretty bad leak, to say the least. Okay, with these old cars, you've got multiple belts driving multiple pulleys. So I think there's a bolt down here that's on an adjustable track. If I loosen that bottom one there, it should loosen that bracket so where I can shift the pulley and loosen the tension on this belt down here for the power steering pump. I think that's what's going to have to happen. I don't know. So I'm going to be using my dynamic tools to get the job done today. Okay, an update here. I've got the power steering pump loose. The belt is off. There were just these 3 bolts that hold the power steering pump to this front plate right here where my finger's pointing to. I've got to undo this hose right here and then that hard line down there behind it, and this puppy's ready to come out. When replacing a pump, you're supposed to siphon out all the power steering fluid out of the reservoir, but it's empty because there's that bad leak. So there's a step I get to skip. Okay, update. I've got the return line finally off of the power steering pump. That thing took forever to remove. It was stuck on there tight. I couldn't get the wrench down there to do the high pressure line and get it loose, so I just undid it here at the steering box. No big deal. So this thing's ready to come out. And of course everything's in the way, and I'm not going to be able to get it to come out without removing some more stuff, of course. I've got the negative battery cable removed. Not sure what those ground wires are for. Battery tray is in the way. Small pump bracket that's in the way. Oh, thank goodness. Okay, a couple things I need to keep off of this power steering pump. This bracket right here, the pulley, and obviously my high pressure line. I might have to keep the cap. I can't remember, but my new power steering pump has the pump and reservoir already included. What I'm going to be using is this Maddox pulley remover and installer kit. I got this at Harbor Freight. I've done a couple of power steering pumps on my Trailblazers, so I thought instead of going to the town to rent the tool all the time, I just bought myself my own kit. So the inside does have diagrams and instructions on how to remove the pulley and reinstall. Pretty nice little kit. Highly recommend getting one if you do your own mechanic and work. I cannot remember how much I paid for this. I bought it a couple years ago before inflation hit, and I'm sure it's a lot more than what I paid for it now. Okay, we're getting ready to pull the pulley. What we got here is the jack screw. We've got what they call the button puller body. We're supposed to keep this well lubricated. We've got the jaws. It goes around like that. And then we've got the sleeve. It goes over the top of it like that. Holds everything in place. Okay, and then I've got a 1/2-inch socket. I've got my croissant wrench right there. And all we got to do is just tighten. And this will pull the pulley off. Probably wouldn't hurt to get a breaker bar. In fact, that's what I'm going to do. Breaker bar it is. We want all the mechanical advantage we can get. Not super tight. Why? I'm just bending the pulley somehow. Isn't this great? It's just great. It's great. Take 2. I don't think I had it lined up exactly right. I think this is actually working better. Yep, I'm hearing some popping, so I believe it's sliding off. Yep, I can see it separating now. I don't know what I did wrong to begin with. Oh, I did take this button out and replaced it with a pin that's in the kit. It looks like this, but it was shorter. Mopar or no car? So glad I bought that puller tool. It came in real handy. Now to get the high pressure fitting off. I've got an 18 millimeter on here. It's on there pretty tight. Beginning to think if that thing was even going to come out. I already took one of these nuts off because I thought it was part of the bracketry that held the thing in place. So I just have one more to go and we'll get this bracket off and swap it over to the new one. Okay, I think that's everything off of here that I need. So here's my new pump. Got it off of Rock Auto. There's the part number. 731-2146. Remanufactured. Okay, yeah, I will need the cap. Nice and shiny. The return line is awfully close to the bracket. I may have to bend that back. Alright, we're ready to install this pulley now. I got a press bolt screwed into the bottom of the jack bolt. I've got the puller body right here. I've got the bearing and then a washer. And then this screws into the inside of the power steering post. Okay, we put the 1/2 inch on the bottom and then this becomes our drive screw. Let's do that until it pushes all the way down. Looks like it's going on straight, so let's keep tightening. Okay, so I got the new pulley on, and it is flush with the post of the pump. I've got the bracket on. I put the fitting in with a new O-ring, and I got a new O-ring on the other end. Well, here goes nothing. Now it's just a matter of hooking in the low pressure line, hooking up the high pressure line to the box, and then lining this thing up and putting the bolts back in and trying to figure out how to get the belt back on, all while doing all those things. So this should be a fun exercise of futility. That's real good. Get dirt all over your O-ring there, Dan. And then just go right back and do it again. Good going. Okay, just gonna get that thing started on there. So that's in place. Put this return line on. Okay, I've got the return line connected and the clamp on. I've got the belt looped back around the front of the pulley. So now I need to finagle this thing to where the bolts all lined up to where they go. This may or may not be a simple task. I need to run this long bolt and the spacer in here real quick. And I dropped it, of course. Ugh. And now we go fishing. Okay, take two. Man, this is a finagling game. Two hands, a thumb pushing on the bolt, the other hand jacking up the back, while trying to use my thumb to line up the bolt and the bracket. All the while trying not to lose the belt off the pulley. I'm sure there's a better way to do this, but I'm an idiot, so I don't know. Oh, come on. Abort, abort, abort. Well, it was a pill, but I finally got that bolt in. The bracket's all lined up. I've got two more bolts, one there and one opposite, and this thing should be good to go. I'm sure there was an easier way to do this. I just don't know, because I'm an idiot, like I said. I'm sure you guys were all yelling through your screen. Do it this way, Danator, you're doing it wrong. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Now if I can just get these other bolt holes to line up, we'll be in business. That is the 5th time I've dropped this bolt. I'm getting pretty tired of fishing for it. Why did I buy an old car again? Oh, these are cool. If we could just get this bolt started, that'd be great. I spent nearly 30 minutes trying to fish this one bolt in here. You can see right here, it wasn't going to happen.
By sheer coincidence.
Okay, it's all back in place, finally, thank goodness. All these accessories on here are on brackets that have like guides, so if you loosen a bolt, you can actually shift the bracket, and that'll relieve tension off of the belts, which is what I thought I was doing with this pump. There's a bolt right at the end of where my finger's pointing that goes into this bracket back there. I loosened that, and I thought I could move that bracket. In fact, I moved it a little bit when the pump was out, so that will relieve the tension for the power steering pump pulley and drive belt. Well, after I got the pump in and one of the bolts started, I couldn't move the bracket. So it was a very excruciating, leaning over the fender, back hurting, legs hurting kind of a deal. But I was finally able to kind of finagle it to where the bolts finally lined up. I've got one more bolt to tighten right here. The power steering line right there is in. The fitting is tight on the back, and the return line is clamped in place. So we're really close to filling this thing with power steering fluid and firing this thing up. Whew. Took longer than I expected. Okay, we've got the power steering fluid in it. Now we can bleed it. I'm going to put the cap on it, make sure it's at the cold level on the dipstick. The wheels are in the straight on position, which is good. And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn the car on and let it sit for a few minutes at high idle. And then we're going to check the fluid to make sure it's at the cold level. And then we're going to bleed the system by turning the wheels side to side without hitting the bump stops. This is going to work the air out of the system, and I need to make sure I keep the reservoir full as I'm doing this procedure. So once we get all the air worked out of the system, we're going to put the wheels back to the straight position, and then we're going to leave the vehicle running for several more minutes before we shut the thing off. And then we'll take it for a spin and make sure it's all working good, check the dipstick, see where it's at, add fluid as necessary, but we shouldn't have any more air bubbles or anything, foam or whatever in the reservoir. So, all right, let's do it. It's kind of milky, foamy looking. Level's gone down quite a bit. I'll put a little bit more in there. Okay, I've got more fluid. Let's do it again. So the steering wheel is getting easier to turn. I really had to muscle it at the start. I'm not supposed to hit the bumps, but I'm doing it. All right. Check the fluid one more time. You can see it's quite foamy down in there. So a lot of air has made its way out. So I can continue to do this for however many more turns it takes to get it to completely line out and clear up. Anyway, I'll keep doing that, but that's pretty much it. Glad to have that fixed.